We need the state. Many irreplaceable functions are performed by the state, but too much state can be a damaging drain on the general welfare of all economies. We rely on, pay, private companies to do innumerable things for us. From the spectacular transportation of human beings at great speeds through the air, to the more mundane but far more important task of keeping us warm and fed. There are certain things though, whether for constitutional, legal or practical reasons, that cannot be left to individuals and the markets, to capitalism. An exhausted list of important roles performed by the state can include public functions, defense, foreign policy, public order, justice, democratic institutions, bureaucracy, money, environment, epidemics, taxes, self-liquidating projects, capital markets, emergencies, war or financial crisis, regional transfers, entitlement, automatic transfers, social security. These are expensive responsibilities, and only those willingly or not under the authority of a state can pay for them. A state has four primary sources of income at its disposal. They are taxes, public debt, inflation, patrimonial income, and assets that can be disposed of. A state can borrow from markets. They can borrow great amounts when they are a healthy democracy with strong public institutions, independent, invigilating institutions, and the guarantee that successive leaders are not constrained by the leaders that went before. States can also, like a family or a firm, finance their expenditure with debt, which shifts part of the tax burden to the next year, or to the next 10 or 20 years. But just like the family or the firm that takes on too much debt, an over-indebted state is unstable and can untimely become a threat to the living standards of those living under its influence. The state's ability to go into debt during the good times postpones present fiscal pressure to keep the state's books balanced. It also means that those that benefit from borrowing on the market are not those that necessarily have to repay their debt. As the examples of Italy and Japan have shown, domestic debt does not cause immediate financial crises, but foreign debt does bring crises when the risk premium equals the interest on new debt issues. Did we lose some of you there? When a state borrows, it borrows from banks, just like you and me. It borrows at a rate of interest that defines how much more than the amount it initially borrowed it will have to repay. If that amount becomes unserviceable, i.e. the state cannot borrow money cheaply enough from anywhere to cover the repayments, then the country has a serious problem. So what is this state of public debt today? We've all heard about Greece, Ireland, Italy and the UK's very high debt levels. But what exactly does the data tell us? And just how bad is the situation at the moment? Before we get to that though, we should differentiate between public deficit and public debt. A public deficit exists when the state has spent more than it has earned. As this graph shows, the Eurozone has always run on average a public deficit, but the recent Eurozone crisis is easily noticeable when debt levels nosedived in both 2008 and 2009. The next graph shows how public deficit levels vary from country to country, and therefore highlights the limit of one-size-fits-all solutions put in place by the EU in response to the euro currency crisis. Public debts are even more worrying.